and welcome back to another episode of the Prepper Ninja Podcast. I'm Greg, and this is coming to you from the vault under the Ozark Mountains during the COVID pandemic. We're coming to the end of the self-isolation in the Phase 1 reopening of businesses around us, which in a way kind of worries me because I suspect there's going to be another spike. A lot of people around here haven't really paid that much attention to social distancing and isolation, preferring to believe that it's either a hoax or it doesn't affect them, or who cares if they get it, it's not going to be that bad, or it affects their freedoms. The reasons go on and on. There's all sorts of camps on this. No matter where you stand on it, I hope that you can take from this podcast some good information in whatever you choose to do to help yourself and the community around you. Today's episode is going to be focused on water. The needs of water are very important in any prepping and survival situation. Sometimes we have issues with how much we can get. Sometimes we have issues with how pure it is. In this community that we have here, there's a lot of really old homes. There's an entire section of the city that's on this historic registry, 80, 90, 100-year-old homes. And there's a lot of age and a lot of the structure here. And if you've ever lived in a place like this, I'm sure that you have turned on the water after it hasn't been used for a while, or they flushed the hot water heater, and you get this rusty red out of the pipe when it's pulling all that rust off the inside of the pipes. It's not palatable at all. And most likely, that's still cleaner than some of the places you're going to find in what looks like a natural spring outdoors. This is mainly due to all of the pollution that humankind has been putting into nature. Even more than in other situations and other times, we need to take a look at water in the modern age as a valuable commodity that we should not contaminate, that we should conserve, and that we should maintain a knowledge of how to deal with. So we're going to discuss that today. First of all, let's talk about water needs. How much water do you need for what, and where does it have to come from? Basic guideline is 1 gallon per person per day for drinking. Now, having more is nice, but I know a lot of you say, I have to drink a whole gallon a day. I already drink pop, tea, I drink coffee. Anything with tannic acid in it to that extent, like coffee or tea or Coke, is a bit of a diuretic and will actually make you lose more water than you actually retain. And the other things in the processed sodas, the extra sugar that you're getting, or the unhealthy sweeteners that aren't sugar-based if you're using diet, are all something to be considered. So we're not going to address that as such, because the fact of the matter is those are not water substitutes. They keep you alive, barely. So how many people are just thirsty as can be and takes sugary drink after sugary drink to slake that thirst? And, well, we end up overweight. We end up with type 2 diabetes. We end up with a variety of things. Water will not do that to you. So let's assume that you're in a family of 4 and you're having 1 gallon per person per day. Well, that's for, let's say, a 72-hour. That's a short-term emergency when you consider we've been put back in some sort of quarantine across the United States with stay-at-home orders and don't travel orders and those sort of things for weeks. If you have a 72-hour emergency, this is a tornado has come through, or the power's out, or ice storm has hit, a smaller emergency, 72 hours would mean you would still have to have 24 gallons of water just for drinking for your 4-person family. That leads to the question, where are you going to store it? How long can you store it? How do you keep your storage safe? So that's what we're discussing today. First off, everything that you do in the way of prepping and survival should be done with a plan and incrementally. When you go out, let's say you're one of the more militant sorts of preppers or survivalists, and the first thing you think about with survivalist is, well, where are my guns? Even at that, if you're going to go out shooting on a regular basis, you should buy an extra box of ammo when you're going to prep for that, so you can put it back for need later. Because there's going to be a day you're not going to be able to get ammo. This is the case right now, since everybody is paranoid about what's going to happen next. You go to the gun shop and ask for your various calibers of ammunition. Some of them are just not available. People have hoarded so many last minute without planning, a box at a time over the course of time. Now, it will affect your daily life in a more major way if you have to do it all at once, no matter what it is. So if you save back a gallon at a time of water, or a box at a time of ammo, or a can at a time of beans, when you shop, buy an extra few cans of something, put them on the shelf. This is the way you properly prepare for something so you don't have that, oh my God, I must do it now effect when something happens to you. In collecting water in containers, you have a lot of choices. If you want to avoid those extra store-bought water things, start by cleaning out any soda bottles. We talked about your drinking soda habits. You know who you are. Don't throw them away. Keep them. And clean them out and use some sort of sanitizer, maybe a light bleach in your water. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you can use these to store. Any container that is food safe and not permeable to air can be used for storing water. Now, 2 liters, like a 2 liter soda bottle, is just a little bit over half of a gallon. And so 2 large soda bottles per person will be enough drinking water for a person for a day. Refilling milk jugs isn't really recommended because they can contain, I'm not saying they do, but they can contain bacteria from the milk that would spoil in your water, because water is a great medium for biological things to live in, including bacteria. That's why it has to be purified, as we'll discuss later. And also, no matter what you do to milk jugs, most of the time, unless you just sanitize them down to the molecules of plastic, they tend to smell after a little bit of time, no matter how well you clean them. To clean and disinfect your soda bottles, first clean them out by rinsing them with tap water, and then sanitize them by mixing 1 teaspoon of unscented chlorine bleach in 4 cups of water in your bottle. Cover with the cap and shake the mixture so that the entire inside surface gets all wet. Then pour the mixture out and then rinse the bottle and cap thoroughly with clean tap water. Now you can fill it up, cover it, label the date you collected it, because this is important for rotation later, and any lingering chlorine odor and taste should dissipate after a day or 2. You really wouldn't have to worry too much about this unless you're storing it a long term and then immediately going into that storeroom. Now, if you wanted to collect rainwater, it was pure water, right? It comes straight from the sky. Well, with all the pollution in our air, you might want to consider that as a little bit suspect also. So if you collect rainwater, make sure that your state laws don't prohibit it. For some reason, some states prohibit the collection of rainwater because there are water issues in those states or in states downriver from them that they have deals with, where all water that falls should be groundwater, go into the actual water systems that include the streams and rivers and lakes. So if you're in a place you can collect rainwater, it's an option to use these big 55-gallon barrels that you might see here and there, but make sure you are aware of what has been in those 55-gallon barrels. The 55-gallon barrels that have had food in them are generally safe. They're food safe areas. Some come with like industrial sauces like barbecue sauce and things like that for large production. Always investigate what is in the jug, the barrel, the container now, and what it was made for, and what has been put in the past. These are important things to think about in the collection, because you don't want the container to cause an issue with otherwise perfectly clean or sanitized water. In an emergency situation, let's assume you have your drinking water covered, or not. Be that as it may, where are other sources that you can think of in your house that you currently could get water at this point? A lot of times people will think about, oh, they're cutting off the power, or there's a bad storm, or I know something's about to happen or could happen. And so in the event of an emergency, they'll do things like filling up the bathtub with water and filling up any jug and that sort of stuff, just so they have water to wash the clothes, clean things, or water the animals. Thing is, there's all sorts of things that you might not think about. If you have a modern refrigerator with an ice maker in it, many of these refrigerators have automatic ice makers that produce a full container of ice. Well, when the power goes out, they're not going to be producing ice, but you can take that ice and collect it in a container and melt it. It's now safe water to drink, as long as the container was safe. We've talked about that. Another place that you can get water during an emergency is your toilet tank. Not the bowl. Repeat. The tank. The part in back. The toilet tank has water in it, and this can be used for cleaning and watering animals and so forth. And make sure you pull out of there any water that can be contaminated by one of those sanitizer bricks or a little cleaning basket. A lot of things are added to the tank at that or the water in the tank at that level. Another option is your pool or hot tub, if you have those. These are not drinking water level things, but if you don't have to use your drinking water for washing your clothes, flushing your toilet if you're bugging in or staying in bunkered down in the house, or washing wounds, sanitizing things. You can boil the water to keep any bacteria from being in it, to use it for first aid issues. You can water your animals with it and do basic non-drinking water with any of those sources. There's also something that a lot of people don't think about. If the power's out and you're not actually sourcing your water through any other method, you can also drain the water from the hot water tank. Every hot water tank is a little different, and I'm not going to go into instructions here on how to drain your hot water tank for the water due to liability issues, but all of them have a drain valve, because for maintenance you have to drain the water, and the drain valve will be near the bottom, and this can be drained into a container for a source of water. This will give you quite a few gallons of water that you can use. You might not be able to, or might not have thought about beforehand. Now, finding water outside of your home is always possible, because water does just fall from the sky. We call it rain. You need to avoid things like stagnant ponds and pools that have algae on them, the green slime on the top, and the stringy things that are coming out from the edge of the bank. This is probably a very rich source of small ecosystems of things that might not be good for you to put into your system. Now, if you have to take water from one of these places, you need to filter it and boil it. Let's try not to, but if you have to, at a last-ditch effort, filter and boil. Keep contaminated water outside you and your home as much as you can. Filtering your water is an important thing to know how to do. If you're going to make a simple water filter, you can do it out of a combination of coffee filters, cheesecloth, t-shirt, something that will keep the particles together, funnels, strainers. Setting this up to run through batches of material in a jug will keep the basic large materials out of it. Now, this isn't going to take out bacteria, small particles, things of that nature. This is going to keep out leaves and twigs, and it's a good stage 1 filtering system. If you want to build a water filter system yourself, it's always good to have on hand some activated charcoal. A lot of people that have, the word is aquariums. One of the maintenance things that you can use in that is small activated charcoal granules. You can get them in pet stores. You can get them in the pet section at Walmart. And these are great for filtering. Now, you get them for the fish, and they're small gravel-like pieces, and it's good to crush some up into small sandy bits to put on the bottom also. But to create a filter yourself, if you have no other options but have some materials, you're going to need a funnel or a bottle or something to put these items in, layering in this order. Now, you need some clean cotton or foam, cotton foam, fiberfill, something of that nature. And I think fiberfill is a brand name, but it may not be cotton. Ideally, cotton is good because it's very stringy on the microscopic level and absorbs things well. But it's going to be the bottom. You're going to turn the funnel to the point that, or you're going to fill the funnel at the bottom to the point that the cotton is the last thing the water goes through before it gets out of the funnel. You can make a funnel by cutting the end off of one of those soda bottles we talked about earlier too. Now, in the neck of the bottle or the funnel, you're going to put the cotton. Above that, activated charcoal granules, the really fine stuff, and then the gravel stuff. And then you're going to put fine or coarse sand and gravel. And then you're going to put more coarse gravel, being bigger pieces as you go up. And then you're going to put more of the activated charcoal. So you want 2 layers there if possible. And then more clean cotton on the top to help filter out the really big stuff first. So, in the order that the water hits it, it's going to go through the cotton, charcoal granules, heavy gravel, finer gravel, heavier sand, finer sand, charcoal granules, cotton or coffee filter or something of that nature. And then it's going to come out of that funnel into your cup. Now, the next issue that you're going to have is not filtration. Filtration gets particles out. It gets debris, a large debris, small debris. It can be, filtration can actually remove large bacteria as a particle, but it does not kill that bacteria. It's just filtering it, taking it out of what you're drinking. What you need to do is also purify what you have filtered. Now, there are purification pills on the market that we're not going to go into because they all come with instructions on the side, and you may have some in your survival kit right now, which is great. But you have household items and ways that you can do this also. First of all, you can boil this filtered water. All you need for that is a clean container and fire or a heat source, and you need to reach the boiling point and continue to boil it for at least a minute, and then remove it for the heat. After that, after it cools down, you can drink it. Boiling alone won't protect against some parasite or animal feces in streams and ponds, so be aware of the environment where you got this stuff from, and that's why we want to filter first. Now, disinfecting with bleach is another method because a lot of people have unscented household bleach around. So for this, you're going to need the bleach, some sort of measuring device like a medicine dropper, teaspoon, the water to be purified, and so forth. You can find out online and maybe print out a list of the table of how much bleach you need per water, but I'm going to give it to you fairly straightforward here. If you're doing 1 quart of clear water to lightly cloudy water, you can use 3 drops of bleach. Double that for very cloudy or cold surface water. As it's colder, the bleach takes longer to work. So that's why the doubling on the cold. But if it's cloudy, it's obviously got more stuff going on in there. So here's our ratio. What I'm going to tell you is the drops per and the measurements per, because some of this is like teaspoons. And then if you are going to treat very cloudy water, you double this list. So 1 quart is 3 drops of bleach. A half gallon is 5 drops of bleach. 1 gallon is 1/8 teaspoon or 8 drops of bleach. 5 gallons is a half teaspoon of bleach, and 10 gallons is a teaspoon of bleach. That's not a lot. It's not going to leave a lot of taste, and ideally you want it to work on the entire water, so you want to let the water sit for a while afterwards. Ideally, if it's clear, set for 30 minutes or so. If it was murky to start with, let it set for an hour. You don't want to just drop the bleach in and assume it's reached all the sides of all the molecules, all the far reaches of the water container, and try to drink it immediately before things have actually worked. So another method is disinfection with iodine. Iodine leaves a little bit of a taste, and you might not like it as much. And if you have an allergy to shellfish, the iodine in the shellfish is probably one of the reasons that you have that and what can trigger that. So be careful. Okay, so if you're going to use iodine, you need to add 5 drops of iodine per quart of water if it's clear, double it if it's cloudy. To be absolutely sure that the water is safe to drink, then you can combine a couple of these methods. Filter it, filter out the dirt, and then possibly treat it with chlorine or iodine, but don't treat it with both chlorine and iodine, and then boil and let it cool. That makes sense? Good. I was hoping it did. Doing this without any sort of feedback or interviewing somebody and not having an audience to listen to is always a little interesting. I can't watch you nod your heads and tell me that I'm actually getting through to you. One thing that you might want to consider in all of this is choosing a commercial water filter. In the camping supplies, you can get a variety of water filters and straws and things that you can carry in a backpack that you can manually pump, pull, or suck the water through like it was a soda straw that uses activated charcoal and filters. And some of these filters filter hundreds of gallons of water before the filter needs to be changed. So when you're doing the research on this, find out how much they filter as far as total volume. Find out how fine a granule they filter down to, how many microns they will let past, and choose based on what you're willing to carry and use in an emergency. And like everything else, if you're going to buy equipment, the first thing you need to do is learn about how to use it and then practice how to use it. If you just have knowledge of something and no experience, using it is going to be very hard in a stressful situation. And one of the last things that we need to talk about is conserving water in an emergency. If you're going to have a filtration system, if you had a gray water filtration system for things like washing your vegetables, the wastewater from brushing your teeth, washing your hair, washing your clothes, that could be put back in and through a filter to water plants in your garden, then you have that water doing dual purpose and actually providing more value per gallon of the water. Now, all of these things can be added together in little ways into your daily life. I'm sure that Even those of you who are serious practitioners of survival and preparedness aren't doing all of these all of the time because you really don't need to. All you need to do is be aware of them, be prepared for them, and practice them so you have experience with them. Remember, water is the most important substance in the world around you. You're made up of it. You need to take it in. You need to put it on you. You need to have it around you. This is an important lesson when we think about the things that we need and the priorities. Water always has to be close to the very top of the list. I hope everyone is out there staying safe and doing a good job with their social distancing and working on actually having a happy and peaceful life in this new, slightly more separated world. I'll talk to you next time on the next podcast, and you have a great day. Stay safe.